Is a virtual brokerage right for you? Unfortunately, I can't answer that. I get asked that question a lot, and my response is always, I can't answer that for you, but I can go over the pros and cons of being at a virtual brokerage to help guide you in your decision. And before I get into the pros and cons of being at a virtual brokerage, I want to touch on a couple of things. The first thing is there is no one size fits all when it comes to a brokerage. And I think that it's really important to remember that as an agent when you are either looking into joining your first brokerage because you're in the process of getting licensed, or if you're an agent who is currently at a brokerage. We're in the time of year where agents really start to think about making a change ahead of the craziness of the spring market. And not getting caught up in the hype of, oh, this is the best brokerage and this is the best brokerage. The best brokerage is one that aligns with the culture that you're looking for and also is going to help you feel like you are a part of something bigger. And I really do think that is incredibly important. There is way, way, way too much emphasis put on, well, what's the split and what's the fee? And obviously, that's an important component when deciding where you want to hang your license. I'm not saying that it's not important and should be a factor that you are considering, but it should not be the only factor, and it shouldn't be the end all be all to your decision. And I'm a perfect example of someone that has moved brokerages before and took a lower split because I knew that it would move me along further in my career. I wanted to be aligned with the people who were at a different brokerage. And I can even say, in terms of the time that I owned my own brokerage, which was almost a decade, that the splits are not going to be what even retains agents. It has to be the total package. So I'm going to get off my soapbox now. Just don't make it all about money, please. You will end up at a brokerage that you're not happy with, and it's expensive to change brokerages and not something that you should be doing on a regular basis. Let's start with the cons of being at a virtual brokerage. And these may or may not be cons to you because it really depends on how you learn. Number one is if you are going to even consider joining a brokerage, you really do need to be a self-starter because I have been with two virtual brokerages, EXP first, and now I'm with Real Broker. And you really do need to be a self-starter. Everything that you need is at your fingertips, and you don't have to go to an office to find it. It's all there, but you have to be willing to not only do some digging to look for what it is that you need answers to, or you have to be willing to reach out to support staff that you're not going to be physically walking into an office to see. And personally, that's not a con to me. I would much rather be able to hop on my computer and find what I need than have to drive to an office for some mandatory sales meeting. But that doesn't mean that that's the case for everyone. So, depending on how you learn and how you feel most supported, that could be a con for a virtual brokerage. Another con for a virtual brokerage can be feeling like you don't belong or don't find that sense of community because there is way less face to face interaction than you would find with a brick and mortar brokerage. And again, for me, not particularly a con because I don't like spending time driving to an office and then sitting around a table for a sales meeting. I learned that very early on in real estate that for me, I just don't get anything out of that. And I'm perfectly happy sitting on a Zoom or whatever the brokerage uses for meetings, updates, etc. But if you do prefer that face-to-face interaction and in-person events, that could be a con for you with a virtual brokerage. Not to say that in-person events don't happen. They certainly do, at least with Real Brokerage here in the DMV, but they're not as frequent as it would be with, at least my experience, a brick and mortar brokerage. Something else that I think can be a con, particularly if you are a brand new agent, is with a virtual brokerage, at least with EXP and Real, there is a mentor program, and you can be paired with a mentor for a very, very reasonable split on your first few deals to get some help, get some guidance, and at least feel like you have a little bit better idea of what you're doing actually in the field, and in particular with writing contracts or a listing agreement. But what can happen is, at least in my experience, I used to be a mentor at EXP, is that agents can be paired with the wrong mentor. And that could be that the agent is not a good fit for the mentor. And it can also be that the mentor is not a good fit for the agent. And as a new agent, that can be incredibly discouraging and difficult because you have, endless questions, and you want to feel like you can approach that person and feel comfortable to get their help and their feedback. And it's more of a round robin, is not the right term, round robin system, but it's all that's coming to my mind right now. Like, there's not like this big interview process between the mentor and the agent to make sure that it's going to be a good fit, like you would experience if you were considering investing in a coach. And I think that that can be difficult for newer agents, because if it's not a good fit, it's just discouraging and you're already overwhelmed. And a lot of times that causes agents to sort of retract into their shell. Now, on the flip side, pros of a virtual brokerage, and for me, the pros far outweighed the cons. When I moved to EXP, I shut my boutique brokerage down to move there. And really, my only regret is that I didn't do it sooner. Let's talk about the money first, the fees. You are typically going to find lower fees at a virtual brokerage because they have lower overhead. This is a more, what I would say, current model for a real estate brokerage, and the climate that the real estate industry has been shifting to for years now. And again, I don't think that money should be your only deciding factor, especially if you're a brand new agent considering a brokerage that, has very low fees and a 100% split. Keep in mind that if you're not getting the support you need and you're not closing any deals, 100% means nothing because you're not closing any deals. So it's not that I am touting seeking out lower fees, but if you can still get the support that you need, feel that you are immersed in the culture that you are comfortable with and are looking for in a brokerage, then if it comes with lower fees than a brick and mortar, that's a win across the board for everyone. And it's kind of at least for me, the you get what you pay for philosophy. I could very easily at this stage go to a 100% brokerage, and personally, I still wouldn't do it because there are a lot of tools that are provided at Real that I think are well worth the split that I pay. I cap every year there, and then 100% anyways with some very minimal fees after I've capped. So it still wouldn't be worth it to me to go to 100% brokerage because I would just then have to spend money to get access to the tools that I want to use in my business. Another pro about a virtual brokerage is not having to go to a brick and mortar. I think it's a very outdated approach to business to expect agents to come to the office for a monthly sales meeting or for some type of training. Especially where I live, like, traffic is terrible. I could easily spend 2 hours out of my day commuting to an office, and that's just a waste of time for me. Again, personal opinion though, it depends on what you're looking for. Something else that at least I have found at Real is, even though we're a virtual brokerage, I cannot recall a time, except within my own brokerage, but we were super small, so it's not the same, that I have felt like I am part of something bigger. And there was a time where if you had asked me that about a brokerage, I probably would have laughed because I really didn't think it was possible. And I hope that Real sticks to that. The agents at Real are so helpful to one another. Information is shared openly on the Work Vivo platform that we have access to. And I cannot recall a time where I have felt like, oh, I'm alone on an island over here. There is always someone that you can ask for help. And to me, that's a cultural aspect of real that I really do enjoy, feeling that I'm part of something bigger and that agents are willing to help one another out. Another pro about a virtual brokerage is you have such easy access to agents that aren't in your market. And that can help sharpen your tool belt. We are always sharing ideas back and forth within Real on what's working, what isn't working. Agents are who are at the top of their game are giving trainings that anyone is free to attend. So if you're looking to add a skill to your tool belt, or if you're looking to sharpen something that you're already doing and you want to try to make it even better, there's always a training that you can hop on, or there's always someone that you can ask. And I think that that's a huge benefit because it's just so easy to do. I'm always thinking of ways in my business that I can lessen the friction, because the less friction I have, the more likely something is going to happen because I'm not like fighting through to get it done. So that's been something that I really have found is a pro. And I would say that was a pro at EXP too. It's the virtual world that you operate in. Everything is just right there at your fingertips. And something else that I would say really a surprise to me about Real, because I'm going to say I'm a bit of a pessimist. Like, I'm not a trend follower at all. I'm slow to hop on different trends and I like to observe first. And I was really like that with Real. Like, is this just a bunch of hype? All these agents are like making a change, and is this just another like fad? Because that does happen in real estate. And I was really hesitant to move because I hate changing brokerages. It takes so much time, it takes money, energy. And then I did have some meetings with the person that initially caught my eye making a move to Real, and then met with her and someone else who had been with the company longer, just on a Zoom, just a casual conversation. And I just loved how open they were to answering questions, and not questions about real estate, but about the brokerage in general. And even then, I trusted these two people. But even then, in the back of my mind, I'm like, this is still just a bunch of hype. Am I going to get here and be disappointed and kind of have Groundhog Day again from where I was? And so far, it is almost 2 years later. It'll be 2 years in January. And I have been so impressed with Real, with the culture, with the staff too. That's another big thing. You have to look at when you're changing or thinking about changing brokerages, is the staff within the brokerage can make such a difference. And for me, that is something that is incredibly important, because I really get a bad taste in my mouth quickly if the staff at the brokerage is rude to me, because one, I ask hardly any questions ever. And two, normally when I'm dealing with them, it's an admin situation that, a check hasn't been sent by a title company, or the brokerage maybe overlooked something that had been sent. And it is such a turnoff to me when a staff member is rude, because at the end of the day, agents pay the staff's salary. And it's not that I have this like, oh, we're the boss mentality. I don't. But I do think that staff at a brokerage needs to be incredibly respectful and supportive of the agents who, at the end of the day, are paying those people's salaries. And that is brick and mortar or virtual. I like to know that the staff is going to be supportive to agents. And I think that that's something you should be factoring into your decision too, of wherever you land. Doesn't even matter if it's virtual, it could be a brick and mortar. Is this place somewhere that you feel supported, not just by the brokers and your peers and other agents, but by the staff as well? It's really important because you are going to deal with them at some point in time. That's my 2 cents on pros and cons of a virtual brokerage. And again, I want to close this out by saying there is no one size fits all for a real estate brokerage. It's like going car shopping. Everybody is going to be looking for and like something different. So keep that in mind, whether you are looking to join your first brokerage or you're looking to make a change. You have to look at yourself first and figure out what it is that you are looking for in a brokerage and then go seek that out. If you have any questions, drop them in the comments below. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you on the next one.